Right, Chris and Jules, who make up 𝐂𝐾_𝐳𝐞, or part of it, welcome to Countdown, welcome to Australia.
Nice to be here.
First of all, I must congratulate you on an enormous record with Cool for Cats. Can you just tell us, Chris, a little bit about that record, how it was written and recorded and filmed and everything?
Well, it was written in the pub January of last year, and it was recorded. It was the very last record to be recorded on the album, and it's done extremely well for us. It was one of the easiest songs to write.
Yeah? Jules, tell us a little bit about the group, because until Cool for Cats we knew very little about Squeeze at all.
Well, altogether there's 5 of us. There's me, Jules, I play the piano, and Chris, who writes the lyrics, and there's Glenn Tilbrook, who plays the lead guitar, and Gilson Lavis, who plays the drums, and John Bentley, who plays the bass, which is the 5 of us. And we've been together about 3 years now, except our bass player's just joined us. He's been with us about 6 months now.
And how long have you been going as the 5-piece?
About 3 years. We had a hit last year in England with a single called Take Me I'm Yours.
Right.
And this year we've had Call for Cats, which got to number 2 here, and Up the Junction, which also got to number 2 here.
Which has just been released in Australia. Yeah. Were you surprised for a start that Cool for Cats was a big hit in Australia?
Well shocked.
Yeah?
Yeah, but it was a real shock to find out that we had a gold album there too.
Right.
So it's going to be fantastic to go over there and tour.
Now, how would you describe your brand of music, if you have to give a label to it?
I think it's pop music, but it's modern pop music. I hate people when they have to put bands in different pigeonholes. I don't think there's any need for that.
Right.
But I think if we had to be put in any pigeonhole, it's pop music.
Now, there's so many, and especially coming over this time, there are so many different types of groups in London at the moment, and the charts are so different each week. What do you count that for? I mean, at one stage it was very sort of either, hard rock or ballads, but now it's just become wide open for everyone.
I think that's very good. I think the radio stations are playing such a varied amount of different sorts of records that people can listen to them and just buy the sorts they want, and there's just lots of different things to choose from, which I think is good because it's more variation for everybody.
Right. Now, the film clip looked as if it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, it was great.
Just with those chicks and the sign on the back and everything.
Yeah, that's the other important thing about us. We are fun, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of us together spell the word fun.
Who thought up the idea of the film clip like that?
Derek Burbridge, he's the guy who does our videos. He also does the police videos.
Yeah. It was very effective.
Yeah, it was great. We're going to do another one with him very soon.
Now, as far as Australia's concerned, I believe you're coming down there to tour soon.
Yeah. We're getting there we've got to go there on January the 3rd. Right. And then we have 3 days rest. Apparently it takes three days. And then we're going to lay out in the sun and think about everybody at home in the snow.
Yeah.
And then go out on the road. It's going to be great fun.
And what can we expect from you live on stage?
A lot of excitement.
A lot of excitement.
Yeah. And
a lot of fun.
Yeah. Dancing.
All your own numbers?
Yeah,
yeah. And a lot of dancing, and people generally enjoying themselves. Good fun, light-hearted.
What sort of audience do you attract in England?
Drunks.
Drunks, it's varied. There's I mean, if we play in a university, there's a lot of students there. If we play in a pub, there's a lot of drunks there.
No, but I mean, you seem to get a varied audience across, like different groups are getting varied audiences now, whereas it seemed to be, again, if you're punk, you just followed a punk group and didn't follow anything else. The audiences seem to be spreading out.
Yeah, it's really strange. We played at the Lyceum just recently, when we got back from the States. And there was a kid in the audience dressed as a punk singing Up the Junction, which is a very sad kind of song, very sort of suburban song, and there he was singing Up the Junction. It was great.
Right, now having such a big hit in Europe, England and Australia, and we're about to go into the 80s, how do you personally look at the music that was in the 70s?
I kind of thought that it was like a bridge between the 60s and the 80s, because I believe the 80s is going to be, as the 60s were, full of change. I don't think the 70s were particularly interesting.
Other than the important thing is at the end of the 70s, there was a lot of room for new bands to break out, all different sorts of new things, where it had been, from the early 70s, it had all become a bit staid, and the same big, very large name acts were just the same ones that you kept hearing about. And at the end of the 70s, there's lots of young bands that started to break through.
Yeah? No one else? When you take into consideration, for instance, like Elton John had a massive amount of hits, you know, in the mid 70s.
Yeah, he did, but
The thing with Elton John, he had some very good hits, but I don't think he really affected the whole. He was a man just playing songs in his own right. He didn't really affect things, I don't think.
What about Fleetwood Mac and Eagles, for instance, in America?
Well, they sell loads and loads of records, but I really think that my personal opinion is their records they're a bit out of touch with younger generation, people in their teens and early 20s, because those people now are playing a similar sort of music as they did 10 years ago.
What about ELO?
I thought their first records were really good, but now they just do exactly the same thing. They don't seem to move forward. They play exactly the same sort of records the same sound all the time.
Very repetitious sound now.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people move ahead.
But I think asking us about what we think about bands like ELO and Elton John, you know, is a bit strange because we got very varied tastes. Like Julian's roots are very heavily grounded in boogie woogie and rock and roll. Right. You know, whereas mine are in lyrics and things.
Right. Well, it brings me back to this. Do you think that in the 70s, producers and the technological thing as far as records were concerned overshadowed rock and roll? Like Kate Bush and songwriters say that in the 80s, a lyricist is going to become far more important. How do you feel on that?
Speaking as a lyricist.
Well, I hope it does.
That people start listening to the words of songs more.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I think they must, because there are so many songs with really banal words that the more songs that start to come out that have good words, people are going to start realising when they hear really silly words that they'd rather hear something with a bit more depth to it. So I think that's got to happen, really.
Artists like Gary Newman, what's the future for them in the 80s?
Well, I haven't got much of an opinion of him because I think he's just a clone of David Bowie, or so he seems, and I've never really listened to him because of that.
Bruce Springsteen?
He's never been a hero of mine.
No?
No, I think he's an American kid, you know, right. And I don't particularly relate to the street credibility of the American kids.
Yeah. All right, a new album. Are you in the pros?
Yeah. That should be ready in January, and I'll say that I think it's by far the best one. It's our third one.
What's it going to be called, do you?
We're not sure. We thought of calling it Julian's Got a Brand New Bag, but
Dark Side of the Moon.
Or Dark Side of the Moon, we thought, because we know there's been a success with my album called that, so we thought we might have the same sort of success. We're not sure at the moment, no.
To finish off, how does it feel to have two names, Squeeze in England and UK Squeeze in Australia?
I think it's a shame, but unfortunately it has to be, because there's another band called Squeeze in Australia, as there were in America until they had an accident. It's just a shame. But good luck to this other band called Squeeze.
Yeah.
And well, that's all I've got to say. We can't wait for you to come down, and thanks for that record, because it was a great record, Cool for Cats.
Thank you very much.
Great.
See you soon.